Let's jump right in. Welcome to this explainer, where we're looking at how modern, multidisciplinary science is literally rewriting human history. We aren't just staring at a dusty list of old objects today. Oh no, we are cracking ancient cold cases wide open using some truly mind-blowing modern tech. It's like this quote perfectly points out: finding an ancient artifact, that's really just the beginning. Pulling something out of the dirt is definitely thrilling, but the real detective work starts when historians, linguists, and scientists put those discoveries under a microscope. That is where the actual magic happens. Here's the game plan for today. We're grouping these massive recent discoveries into 5 areas: tracing origins through chemistry, DNA rewriting human connections, surviving ancient climate change, measuring ancient equality, and finally, the unsettled past. Alright, Section 1, Tracing Origins Through Chemistry, How Elemental Analysis Tracks Ancient Movement. So to figure out exactly where Stonehenge's massive altar stone came from, scientists zoomed way in on microscopic detrital zircons. Basically, these are tiny mineral crystals trapped inside rock that act like a geological fingerprint. They tell us exactly where and when that specific rock formed. And by matching that fingerprint, they found out the altar stone traveled a staggering 700 kilometers. It came all the way from far northeast Scotland. And here's the kicker: geological models just do not support glacial ice dragging it that specific way. This epic journey was almost certainly pulled off through sheer human ingenuity. Just imagine moving a 6,000-kilogram rock that far in the ancient world. No flatbed trucks, just muscle and engineering. And this isn't an isolated incident. We're seeing this deeply interconnected ancient world pop up across the globe. For instance, 86% of tested Southeast Asian silver coins share the exact same die-match flaws, which proves a massive 2,000-kilometer economic network. Over in Europe, 3D laser scans linked Bronze Age Iberian boat carving straight to Scandinavian maritime traditions. And isotope testing on the famous Sardinian Bronzetti figurines, it proved their copper was actually imported from as far away as Iberia. Speaking of unbelievable origins, check out this number, 7.41%. A really bizarre iron artifact found at the Bronze Age site of Sensingdui in China contains over 7% nickel. Why does that matter? Because ordinary smelted iron just doesn't look like that. That specific chemical signature proves the object was crafted from a meteorite. We're talking literal sky metal forged into an ancient ritual object. How cool is that? Okay, moving on to Section 2, DNA Rewrites Human Connections, Uncovering Hidden Lineages and Kinship. Just look at this timeline from central Argentina. By analyzing genome-wide data spanning 10,000 years, researchers unveiled an entirely unknown human lineage. As you can see, it emerges about 8,500 years ago, stays highly localized for millennia, and then, around 3,300 years ago, ancestry spreads out into the pampas. And remarkably, this previously invisible ancestry is still a crucial component in local Native American populations today. DNA is also solving some major historical cold cases for us. In ancient Korea's Shilla Kingdom, we now know that elite royal sacrifices actually included their own close relatives. Meanwhile, in southern China, DNA linked modern Bo people directly to the mysterious ancient cultures that suspended wooden coffins high up on cliff faces. And, by pulling DNA from the dental pulp of victims in a mass grave in Jordan, we finally secured the first genomic evidence of Justinian's plague spreading through the eastern Mediterranean. And these connections go incredibly deep, even completely rewriting what we thought we knew about linguistics. For the longest time, the old belief was that the isolated Basque language and the ancient Iberian language only shared loose sound-alikes for numbers, nothing major. But linguistic detectives have now proven they share deep, structural vocabulary for kinship and personal identity. We aren't just speculating anymore, we're mapping concrete historical family trees. Section 3, Surviving Ancient Climate Change, How Ancient Societies Adapted to Extreme Weather. Sometimes the biggest answers come from the smallest pieces of evidence. Take a look at this. Zooming in on microscopic grains of wetland pollen trapped in the ancient floor mortar of a Corral civilization settlement in Peru revealed a devastating shift. The wetland pollen just vanished from the record, replaced entirely by dry grass pollen. This microscopic clue proved a catastrophic drought hit the area, forcing these communities to fundamentally adapt their food sources and settlements just to survive. Across the world in China, researchers pulled off something absolutely brilliant. They analyzed 55,000 Shang Dynasty oracle bones. They literally sat down and counted desperate prayers carved into turtle shells, asking for relief from heavy rain and disasters. Then, they matched those textual pleas with physical flood deposits in the Chengdu Plain and paleoclimate records. The data aligned perfectly. They tracked massive, ancient typhoons traveling far inland, causing intense social disruption. Alright, Section 4. Measuring ancient inequality. Disrupting assumptions about urban growth. So to measure wealth distribution in antiquity, researchers apply something called the Gini coefficient to the size of ancient houses. It's a statistical measurement, where 0 means perfect equality, everyone has the exact same size house, and 1 means maximal inequality, where all the wealth is hoarded by a few elites. Now here's the crucial point regarding what they found at the massive Harappan city of Mohenjo-daro. Astonishingly, as this massive city grew and developed over centuries, its Gini coefficient didn't skyrocket. It actually dropped to 0.23. This tells us that over time, residential space there became highly egalitarian. This completely shadows our traditional expectations. We usually just assume that as ancient cities grew into complex urban centers, they inevitably became highly unequal wealth hubs, dominated by a ruling class. But the reality at Mohenjo-daro shows us it grew more equal over time. They shared expansive public infrastructure, like brick-lined drains, rather than building ancient McMansions and sprawling royal palaces. Massive economic growth did not require extreme wealth inequality. Conversely, if we look at Rome, equality was intentionally destroyed. 3D spatial modeling of the Roman Forum proves exactly how shifting architecture was weaponized. In Step 1, the late Republic Forum operated as an open, shared space, perfect for chaotic, equal political competition. But by Step 2, Augustan monuments were deliberately designed to standardize and separate audiences to manage performances. Architecture was literally used to kill the old political competition and strictly enforce imperial authority. We also have to rethink technological dominance. Check out this timeline of weapons in North America. When the bow and arrow appeared 1400 years ago, it immediately replaced the older atlatl or spear thrower in the south. But in the north, radiocarbon dating shows they coexisted for over 1,000 years. The bow didn't just instantly conquer everything everywhere. It was a slow, localized adaptation. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the unsettled past, the continuing scientific investigation of history. Basically, every new data point forces us to rewrite the textbooks. For example, we now know Hittite hygiene went way beyond just temple rituals into highly specific daily routines. And get this, just 11 simple dots painted on a ceramic figurine in Guatemala completely push back the origins of early Mesoamerican math. Over in Siberia, a 2,500-year-old skull shows evidence of incredibly advanced jaw surgery using drilled bone canals and elastic tendon. Oh, and geological core sampling. It proved that Egypt's massive Karnak temple was originally built as a literal island in the Nile. Even previously unreadable codes are cracking under modern computing power. Researchers finally solved the mysterious Zapotec glyph W at Monte Alban. By running 7,041 distinct cycle length tests, they proved it perfectly tracked the lunar month, revealing an incredibly precise ancient astronomical calendar. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and it leaves us with one massive question. If science is turning every ancient object, a tooth, a piece of pollen, a tiny zircon crystal, into a vast new library of information that rewrites thousands of years of history, what unbelievable truths about our past are just sitting in the dirt, waiting to be found tomorrow? Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.